But because we're going to be focusing on rainwater catchment, we're also going to be trying to implement recycling gray water to the garden and introducing natural water systems like swales, ponds, and chinampas. And I'll get to all of those in this video. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Permaculture Community. Today I'm going to be talking about starting a permaculture farm and what is our plan. This will be broken up into 5 different sections, and I'm going to be releasing these videos separately as well. Number 1 is observe and interact. Number 2 is water. Number 3 is growth projects. Number 4 is fertilizers. And number 5 is dealing with pest issues. All right, for topic number 2, I'm going to be talking about water. Pretty broad, I know, but we're gonna have to keep it broad because there's a lot of different things in this. So our approach is going to be focusing mainly on rainwater. At least my plan right now is to not have wells unless we absolutely need to drill for a well. But because we're going to be focusing on rainwater catchment, we're also going to be trying to implement recycling gray water to the garden and introducing natural water systems like swales, ponds, and chinampas. And I'll get to all of those in this video. So for rainwater catchment, we're going to be using these 275-gallon IBC totes. That's at least the plan, in series. I don't know exactly how many we're going to need. I think we'll have to do more math closer to when we're actually making this project come to life. And I plan on having some for the house and some for the garden, but I've done a lot of math here for how the breakdown looks for how much water we're going to need and how much water we're going to be getting from rain. So as you can see here in my drawing, which is incredible, this is just for Maryland. On average for a rooftop, you're going to be getting about 0.625 gallons for every inch of rain per square foot, right? So if you have 1,000 square foot roof, that house can collect 625 gallons of rainwater for every inch of rain. So what I did here is I did some math just so you're able to see it all, but I'll just jump to the end. You can pause if you want to stay on it longer. But with the rooftop and with the structure that is going to be over the IBC totes and with an additional tarp, which is going to, at least in my plan, going to be 30 by 50 square feet, which is, we can get a total of about 2,500 square feet to catch rainwater with. And that comes out to, when you calculate it based on the 42 inches of rain that Baltimore receives per year, that comes out to 65,940 gallons per year. And on this other drawing I made, which is also amazing, you can see that the tarp here, we're probably going to have to let the middle of it sag a little bit so that it kind of funnels in to the middle onto the structure that is over the top of the IBC totes so that it can flow into the IBC totes. And so I mentioned that we can get about 66,000 gallons of rainwater per year with this system. We can also add more tarps if we absolutely need to, like let's say we need more water for the garden for some reason. But the average person in an off-grid system uses about 20 to 50 gallons per day. So let's just say my wife and I are both using 50 gallons per day at the high end for 365 days. That would come out to about 36,500 gallons of water per year for the both of us. So at least according to my calculations, we should have enough for our daily life and have a good amount extra for our garden, which is already going to be receiving rainfall. And we're going to be implementing the swales and the ponds and the chinampas, which I'll get to. We also plan to spray paint these IBC totes black to prevent algae growth. And I still need to do some research for how we're going to be keeping them clean. We might have to empty them out and clean them every so often. I'll have to look more into that. So for the house, for these IBC totes, we plan to get a pump and a filter, pump the water from the IBC totes through the filter into the house so we have clean water. For the garden, I probably will just do it gravity fed from the IBC totes. And then for this gray water system, from the house, gray water into the garden, I'm kind of debating what makes more sense. If it makes more sense just to flow straight into the garden, or if it makes more sense to flow into like a large container. And the reason I'm even thinking about that is because I really like the permaculture principle of flooding your plants, not watering them like every single day. Of course, you're going to need to water your annual plants a bit more, but when it comes to like, the trees, the perennials, and even your annual plants, you still want to have more of a flooding watering technique where you water a lot on one day and then you leave it for longer. It's a lot better for your plants because they can dig deeper into the ground searching for that water and develop more beefy root structures. So in this first video I'm showing you, this is obviously a plant filtering method for Graywater system. And I do like this. I think I might incorporate both of these different methods, but here he's just using bathtubs with different plants, which are going to filter out all of those potential pathogens and clean that water source so that you can use it in your garden. And at the very start, he has this kind of tub with wood chips and worms, so that first part of the Graywater to garden system has a lot of life in it, a lot of things which are going to benefit from the Graywater and add good beneficial microbes to the water before it goes down to the rest of the system. I do like this method a lot. It's extremely cost effective. You just need to get some bathtubs, and you can probably source the rest of those materials for mostly free as well. The plants you might have to buy, but overall it's extremely cheap. So this other method, it uses more sediment to filter the water. It does have that first setup where he's got that kind of vermicompost, worms, and wood chip mix at the very beginning. So I think that might be a good thing for me to add. And then it later goes into more rainwater barrels where he's got some gravel that the water has to pass through in order to go to the next barrel full of gravel. And I'm sure I could add some sand to these different barrels as well to add an extra layer of filtering. So those are some of the ideas I'm playing with for Graywater to garden system. Obviously, this is going to depend on if we can get those things permitted or if we can do them without getting permitted. That would be great. We're also going to be implementing swales. So swales to me are an essential part of permaculture. The footage here is from the Weedy Garden, where Jeff Lawton, which is an incredible permaculture expert, helps Weedy from the Weedy Garden build some swales on his property. And I love swales for a lot of different reasons. So swales' primary purpose is to slow the water and soak the water. So it prevents erosion, it slows down that water, and it lets it soak into the entire swale so that when you plant trees on the downside of the swale, not in the middle, but on that lip on the downside, it's kind of a natural way of flooding irrigation for the trees. It also accumulates a lot of organic material, washes into the swale, and it is like a chop and drop in the swale, right? So all this living leaf litter and different animal droppings get washed into the swale, and it fertilizes that land so that trees can really benefit from the swales. You can also put a bunch of other plants around there as well that love water. And the plan is for these swales to also flow into ponds and chinampas. I don't know how many ponds or chinampas I'm going to have, but it is something I feel like I want to really implement. For the pond, we probably would need some machinery to help us out, unless I want to be digging for days. We might be able to do it as a group, I'm not sure, but it's going to be a lot of digging to make a pond. The chinampas is a little bit less work. It's kind of more like a swale that kind of swerves, and in the chinampas, we can plant things that really love water because they will always have access to the water from the chinampas. So things like grasses, sorghum, corn, cattail, things that just love the water are going to be thriving in chinampas. And you can find a video of Willow's Green Permaculture on chinampas in the description below. Another reason why I love ponds is because they attract a lot of beneficial wildlife like fish, ducks, turtles, frogs, and toads. All of these animals are so essential for pest control. They help control things like mosquitoes, slugs, and rodents. I don't know for sure if we're going to have fish, but there are fish that eat mosquito larvae. And ponds also attract a lot of birds, like ducks, herons, that also act as pest managers. Ponds are also great because they can act as emergency water system. If we do, for whatever reason, have a drought and that pond is able to still keep its water, ponds are also a great source of fertility, right? So we can actually take the muck at the bottom of the pond and use that as a fertilizer for plants. It's extremely potent, so you have to be careful. You don't want to burn your plants with how powerful the fertilizer from ponds are, but it is something that we could use in a pinch. And that's kind of a wrap on all of the different water structures that we plan to have on our property. I can go more into these in a future video, but if you found this useful, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm going to be posting a lot more content like this, especially as we start the adventure sometime in 2025. And make sure you check out the other 4 videos in the playlist. All right, see you in the next one. Peace.